Springtime for Ducat and Cardassia. Anyway, enough of that.
Winter for Beijing and
Oh,
we can do a whole
springtime
thing.
for Cardassia. Yes. Anyway, space.
And the Dominion. There are too many syllables, but it could possibly work.
And we're young. Space. The final frontier. These are the voyages of the U.S.S. Adequate. Our ongoing mission to review every episode and movie of Star Trek in existence. To seek out new and reoccurring guests and make them very uncomfortable. To boldly go where nearly every other Star Trek-based YouTube channel has gone before. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Treks and Trekkers. It is I, Captain Goodwill. You thought that they could keep me down. You thought that they could murder me. You were wrong. I am here, and I am never leaving. And joining me...
You get knocked down, but you get up again. They're not ever going to put you down.
No, they are not.
No.
Joining me is the delectable, the sexy, the reasonably priced Geesian from the planet Honk! It's Science Officer Synoiz! He
Hello.
joins us.
I'm looking at myself actually on the screen, and I'm becoming an upwards albino. Like, it's the fact that my eyebrows are getting gradually lighter, and they're just gonna merge into my face until I just don't have anything. I'm just like, what is happening here? Am I gonna have to get like Just for Men purely for my eyebrows? But then I'm gonna look weird. I'm gonna look like the dad from American Pie. I'm just gonna be like, with just 90% eyebrow.
Just for Goose. Maxi Goose.
No, that is not the purpose of Maxi Goose.
What is the purpose of Maxi Goose?
I've forgotten what we came up with, but extreme violence.
Are you pregnant? Don't be. Anyway, this is a slightly different episode of Trekking Up North this week. For we are not live. We are not premiering. We are just recording and then spaffing it on the Great Nerdy Up North channel. Just
spaffing it on the channel.
Spaffing it on the channel just to see if we can, excuse the pun, goose the ratings a little bit. We're trying something new.
Does that mean there's not going to be live chat during this?
There is going to be no live chat, so if you've got any questions, you need to put them in the comments below.
Yes, have a chat in the comments as you're watching. Type comments and... No, that's it. Do that.
Time code it. Time code it. I want to know at 2 minutes 36, the question just is why? And I will answer. It might not be a relevant answer, but I will answer nonetheless.
Just throw your questions into the void and don't expect an answer. Like doing a petition with Parliament. Just throw it out there and expect to get fully ignored.
Speaking of being poor and without Sky, don't forget to click the link below to donate.
Have you seen the memes? You know when like fucking idiot face, like one of the idiots in government, basically sort of say something so ludicrously like, "Oh, I forgot you're entirely out of touch with reality." The memes where it's got like Rishi Sunak as Oliver, and it's like, "Please, sir, can I have Sky TV?"
There's one,
and then it's like, what is it? The bloody the Four Yorkshiremen, where it's basically just from Monty Python, where it's just like Sky TV luxury.
I watched Friends when it was on Channel 4.
I had to wait till Buffy was on BBC Two. That's what I had to do. You bastards getting season 4 early.
There was an AI art, and it was Rishi with a dishy, and it's just a wet Rishi Sunak holding a Sky dish outside of number 10. Well, then someone did a GoFundMe, and it's like, for £2, you can get Rishi Sunak a Sky package.
That's it. But for only billions to our economy, billions out of taxpayer money, we can send him to Rwanda. Might as well make that waste of money scheme worthwhile, I guess.
Quickly,
But
before Labour scraps it, send them to Rwanda.
well, it doesn't matter. They might as well keep it because the money's wasted anyway. So I'm literally on the 4th of okay, viewers. If you haven't registered to vote yet, register to vote. You need to vote. You know, it's the fact of I know this time it's a vote between evil or lesser evil, and it's a bit crap, but it's the fact of if you don't vote, the oppressors will. That's simply the way it works.
Yep.
The people who want to make everything shit will always be the ones voting. So yes, do it. Vote for someone. You know, exercise your democratic right and get the fucking Tories out.
Fuck the Tories.
That's the hilarious thing, actually. On the 4th of July, actually on election night, I'm doing a show in Newcastle called Tories. We wanted to call it Fuck the Tories, but they wouldn't let us. So it's just called Tories the Musical. And I am playing Theresa May, which should be quite fun, I think.
Springtime for Rishi and the Conservatives.
Anyway,
yeah,
sorry, total distraction there.
It has been a week, and I actually text Synoiz on Tuesday. I won't go into it.
My mind's trying to work out which terrible thing this is that you're going to talk about.
I was rushed into hospital, and I I said to Synoiz, if I die, blame the Tories. What a last message that would have been for Greg to receive. My epitaph, I blame Rishi. But I am fine. It may look a little bit darker at the moment, but that is to accommodate how ill I am at the moment. But I am not as bad as I thought. I love it when the doctor puts the fear of God up you, which is always reassuring.
It's always good. It's like, you know when it's the opposite way round and it makes it way more comfortable, because we're kind of used to whenever you look for your symptoms on Google and you just go, oh, I've got a mild headache. What is it? And Google's like, it's cancer. And you're like, thanks, Google. That's really helped. Thanks, NHS website.
I was like, I've just got a small headache. And he's like, you've got a hemorrhage on the brain. Did you drive here? Yes. Well, you won't be driving to the hospital. I'm calling an ambulance.
Are you pregnant? Don't be.
Yeah, but no, I'm fine-ish. But yeah,
we're getting better. Like I've got a dodgy ear. You've got constant headaches. It's basically we're growing up in Tory Britain, and we're getting on.
It's almost like I've been subjugated to non-stop viewing of ITV2. So yeah. We are
another
here,
inhumane crimes.
Another inhumane crimes like Channel 5. We are here to review another season 6 episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. However, this is the first episode we have reviewed that contains the Q. So I am super duper excited as we delve into Star Trek The Next Generation Season 6 Episode 6 True Q. I like this episode.
Also, is this the last Q-centered episode? Because I know he appears in the finale. But does season... Which is the one where he has a son?
That's Voyager.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and Janeway couldn't.
Is this the last Q-centered episode in TNG? I can't remember.
To Google.
Because I can't remember if he's in any of season 7, but yeah.
List of Q episodes. List of Q episodes. Here we go. God damn, thank you so much, Wikipedia. List of Q episodes. It is... No. Star Trek The Next Generation, Encounter at Farpoint, Hidden Q, Q Who, Deja Q, Cupid, True Q, Tapestry,
Oh,
and all good things. So this is the third of the well, not
hold on.
penultimate.
There's
Yeah,
a tapestry. Well, what does he do in tapestry?
yeah. It is the 15th episode of the 6th season. The plot is during a diplomatic mission, Captain Picard is gravely wounded. That's where he gets his pacemaker,
Oh,
the
right.
artificial
Yes.
heart.
Yeah.
You know, old Johnny Picard.
There we go. Yeah, cool. I just
Yeah,
couldn't remember because I knew it was the one like the naming convention where they have to have Q in the name of the episode. So
yeah,
obviously I was like, oh yeah, missed that one. But yes, tapestry
yeah.
and all good things.
This is a good episode, though I have questions
Hmm.
about it. Shall we get to the little synopsis? Because there's a very small
Yeah.
synopsis, this one. So the synopsis for True Q is Q once again. Oh, my days.
Once a Gwen.
The brain not working this week.
Once a Gwen.
I've had a Nigel hemorrhage. Q
Put
once
some
again.
milkshake on it. That'll fix it.
Sorry, the milkshake machine's out of order. Damn you, McDonald's.
How shall we fight against the right? Actually, not the right, just fucking grifters. Nigel Farage will say anything for money. Fuck him. Anyway.
Nigel Farage has shattered the good name of Tweed. Q once again graces the Enterprise with a visit claiming that a young intern aboard is really a Q. And obviously this young intern is brought aboard because she's got this internship on the Enterprise D working with Beverly Crusher, who I am very annoyed that all the way through the episode sort of has more potential than she's given and then is turned into a dog, which infuriated me.
I have to say it's all a bit weird because we have it where we have characters where they're not really used much. Like Data and Troy don't really have much to do in this episode. Like Data does when the second time I watched it, Data is like, okay, he does more than I thought he did. I thought he literally only appeared in one scene. But then like Troy doesn't really get to do anything, and then Crusher ends up doing most of Troy's job. So all of the stuff that like Crusher is doing in this episode should be Troy, but I think they just went, hey, we need to give Crusher, like, if we're gonna have her in, we might as well have her doing something rather than like, oh, you're doing work with me, cool. Oh, now you're a Q, you need to speak to Troy, which would have probably been the course of events, but
I think Crusher is the apprentice mentor in this episode. So she sees Amanda as like a someone to impart their knowledge and wisdom and mentor them during their residency on the Enterprise.
No, I'll agree with that. Like but it just feels like, oh, finally, Troy could actually do her job,
something.
you know.
Yeah,
but I do love the idea though that like Crusher does a much better job of being a mentor to her than actually being a doctor. You know, like as in, like, I mean, you kind of just wonder if maybe like Crusher should probably, because she's such a mum. She's this wonderful mum figure who's basically just like looking after everyone. But then like, yeah, like the one bit where we get to see her slightly do some work, she literally just has the little oh, what are they called? The little
like the samples, like the little vaccines, and she
she has the
leaves
samples
Amanda
in front
to
of her.
do the most
She
important
picks
job.
one of them up and then just doesn't do anything else.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like, okay.
But again, this is why Synoiz always says she's not a good doctor. This is like the most important thing. This is the whole reason they are going to Tagra 4 is to deliver supplies and relief aid to an ecologically devastated planet. And they are doing samples of this vaccine that will help the people. And Crusher goes to Amanda, who is an apprentice, shall we say, yep, you can deal with this. I'm off for a cappuccino, and just goes. And you're like, this is probably the most important thing that you need to focus on as the CMO of the ship. And you just go and do aerobics with Troy in the gym. And it's just, it baffles me that you would do that.
It's weird though, because we have it where like she does, because the first tasks that she gives Amanda are basically, hey, check that the tricorders are working, and then also help with these samples and measure the Oh, I've forgotten what it is. It's measure the rate of something with them.
Oh, it's measure the checking for nutrients. Which
Mm.
nutrients are most beneficial to help this vaccine thrive, shall we say?
But it does seem like those are really important tasks, and they're like, let's give them to the intern. And you're sitting
Yeah.
there being like, hang on. But and then
Yeah.
also one thing I want to say that I was going to bring up later, but it made me laugh, where it literally has a bit where she's just like, okay, once you finish checking all the tricorders, what is it? Get Nurse Ogawa to help you take them down to the shuttle bay. Does she fuck? Nurse Ogawa just literally just goes, no, no, you carry both of them. We never even see it.
Nurse Ogawa goes, "It's two boxes. You've got two arms. Off you
Yeah.
fuck."
And it is. It just this idea of just like, oh, unhelpful Ogawa.
But
No,
we,
I love Nurse Ogawa.
I like the fact that like towards the beginning of the episode, we get an inkling that something is not quite right with Amanda, because there's reference of when she's escorted to her new quarters by Riker, the sexual Tyrannosaurus Rex that is Will
Mm,
Riker. That she references, she's got three dogs and she can't take them with them,
mm.
and then suddenly all these puppies appear.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, what we effectively okay, so we'll go back to the beginning of the episode because
Yeah.
effectively what we do is we're talking about this intern. The first scene that we get is basically between Picard, Crusher, and this new intern who's
Mm-hmm.
Amanda Rogers.
Yeah.
And they've picked her up on a planet. She won the position of being an intern on the Enterprise from like several hundred of her candidates. And then it's quite a wonderful scene because like they're basically, Crusher's singing her praises and saying, "Hey, she's done all of this and whatnot." Amanda complains that she doesn't know what she wants to do in life, and Picard is basically just going, "Hey, like do whatever you want." Like he's being really nice. Like he's someone who doesn't really get on with young people or something like that. But in this scene, he's basically being very sort of supportive and saying, "Hey, just find out what works for you and enjoy it, and work out what you don't like and you don't want to be doing."
He's very though during the scene as well. He's also to flip the coin. He's like, figure out what you want, figure out
Mm.
what you don't like, but don't waste this opportunity.
Well,
Appreciate that out of hundreds of people, you were chosen for this.
he has one of the best lines because it's a word that you never really get to hear much in context, but he gets the
Mm.
line, "You've won yourself a very rare opportunity, avail yourself of it,"
Oh, I
which
love
I
that
think is
line.
wonderful. That is
Yeah,
absolute Picard dialogue, and I really like it. And then
yeah.
obviously you get her being led, like we're saying, gets her led by Riker to her quarters. And
Mm.
we kind of realize that she's got like this crazy powerful mind because she knows the whole ship inside and out just from learning about it on the shuttle craft to the ship, which
Yeah.
is a
She's a
very quick
prodigy,
study.
shall we say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then and we get a bit of sexual tension between them, but it's a bit weird because what we get in this scene is we get Riker seeming like a bit of a lech. We get Riker basically seeming a bit like flirty with her,
Yeah.
and then later on he isn't, and she is, and it's just a bit of a weird flip, basically, because I thought that Riker was a bit creepy in this scene, but maybe that's just me. But like you say, he leaves her alone to her devices, and she's talking about like how her puppies and how she could fit them in the room, and she misses them. And then the next thing we see is that the room is full of puppies.
Mm.
So we get this inkling that we get revealed later on is that when she wishes for something or she kind of wants something in her mind, it comes true,
Yeah.
which is that her puppies have appeared. I always thought watching this episode that she intentionally brought her puppies with her and that she makes them invisible. But I kind of realized watching it back now that it's not. It's her desire for them made them appear.
Yeah.
And then she wills them to go back home effectively rather than actively smuggling them on board like I thought she did.
We also find out that her biological parents died very young,
Yeah.
so she was fostered.
Well, that's in the next scene. We get
Yeah,
Crusher.
yeah.
We get her in medbay checking the tricorders with Crusher, and it's the most awkward conversation in the entire world because Crusher just fucking brings it right down. Where like Amanda's just sort of in the background being like, "Oh, okay, so have you got any other, oh, so Wesley's your son. Have you got any other children?" And Crusher's like, "My husband died."
It's
And it's
really
just like,
funny.
"Oh, okay,
It's
that
it's it's
wasn't
really
the
funny.
question, but thanks for making this a bit horrible."
But I laughed at this scene because it's really funny because I still wish to this day that Jack Crusher, as in Jack Crusher Jr.,
Mm.
was they reflected his true age and that he was born the season that Crusher wasn't in the next generation.
Yeah.
So he was born around about season 2. And I would have loved it, and I know it's not possible, but it just would have been so funny where Amanda would have said, do you have any, any more children, any other? And I would have loved it if there was just a pause from Beverly
Well,
Crusher and just went,
well,
no.
actually, I don't know if she says no. That's the
She does.
question.
She's just
Does
got a
she?
yeah. She's only got Wesley.
Okay. Because that
Um,
thing, because I know that she says my husband is dead, but I was like,
yeah.
is that a no though? You know?
It is. Like I said, it's. I would have liked that just to make things nice and neat in my head. But we know that apparently 34-year-old, 35-year-old Ed Spielers is now 23 because science. But
But
yeah, she brings the conversation right down where she's just like, "My husband is dead." And
but
it's
then
just,
Amanda kind of saves it by being like sort of, oh well, yeah, my parents died as well, so I know what that's like. Like I know the
yeah.
sort of coping with loss kind of thing. And it brings up the idea of she was orphaned. Both her parents died. She's been brought up by foster parents and whatnot.
And
And
that
it
son's
kind
at the
of plays
academy
into the
as well.
whole, where did she come from?
Yeah, but her son's at the academy. She misses him, and she basically Crusher is projecting
She
that
could still be
she
at
is
the academy if she hadn't have got fired for being terrible, for lying on a CV. I'm making it canon.
malpractice Crusher.
They'd like
The
they become the head of Starfleet Medical. You don't have a clue what you're doing, do you?
off you fuck. Um,
Time to be an admiral. But
successfully failing upwards. Hang on, I've got that on my conservative bingo card. There we go. But yeah, so Crusher is projecting that she is alone on the Enterprise because she has no family. Obviously her husband died many years ago, and Wesley is at the academy at the moment. This is after he's been kept back a year for being a naughty boy.
Naughty boy.
For doing the covert starburst and then covering it up, and also making Nick Lacano change his name to Tom Paris. But we see that Crusher is lonely in this in this scene, and that we can sort of see that she is trying to not only be a mentor but try and like fill the void of not having Wesley on the ship, and the void will be filled by Amanda. And I just feel throughout the episode a lot more could have been done with this. Beverly could have been a little bit more centric to the plot when it comes to Amanda, because I feel that Jean-Luc takes over the plot a little bit. And that Crusher is sort of sidelined halfway through the episode, but we'll get to that. So
it is. I do agree with you. Like I don't know if it's like I didn't really get Crusher's loneliness across, but I got the idea that like where like we've all had workmates like this where they're not particularly good at their job. Like I might be this person, but where they're not particularly good at their job, but they're lovely to have around. Like they're a lovely person. Because I've had bosses before where they weren't the best boss in the world. I had like loads of problems with them. But as a person, they were lovely. So when it was like doing their job, it wasn't ideal. But then when it was like if you were upset or if you had other problems or there were like social things that needed to be sorted out, they would step in there. And I
yeah,
feel that Crusher is very much that. She's very much this mother figure who we see constantly more than any other member of the crew. Like Troy doesn't have it because it does hint that Troy has subordinates, but I don't think we ever see them
it's
ever.
yeah.
But
I
like
mean, she's the
Data
ship's
does, like Data does in one episode. Geordie has the whole engineering team. obviously Riker and Picard, everyone's under them. Worf has, a security team.
They're all department heads. That's the senior staff are department heads. Troy is a department head, but it's never alluded to what her department is. Like, she's a counselor, but how many counselors do you need for a ship of 1,000 people?
Well, you must need loads, but then it does kind of allude to she's the only one. Like, like she cancels appointments and then she's like, oh, I just can't see that person. And you're like, aren't there other counselors?
Yeah.
I don't know. But what we see with Crusher, though, is how wonderful she is, where we get so many scenes of her just getting on with the other medical stuff. Like, just having a chat on, like, just having a girl talk with Ogawa or, like, one of the other, like, I don't know, lieutenants, ensigns, I don't know. And then with this, we get this wonderful rapport between her and Amanda that, like you say, doesn't get explored enough, I think.
Yeah, because
I really liked Crusher in this episode. Usually I have a problem with them, but I think they're great in this episode.
I would class this as a Crusher episode of to some extent, but
that was a point I was going to bring up. It's a Q episode that doesn't feel like a Q episode.
No,
like you're saying with Tapestry, Q is there, but he's not the plot.
He's
part of the plot, but and it's a weird feeling because I don't know how to describe it, but yeah.
So obviously Amanda gets told to take all the tricorders to to the shuttle bay with the cargo bay, sorry, with shuttle bay with Nurse Ogawa. Nurse Ogawa goes, no, go.
Yeah, mate. Gets back to playing on a DS.
Does
I don't know why she hasn't upgraded to a Switch yet, or why they don't have anything better than that.
Because she realizes that stick drift is a thing in the 24th century. Come at me, Nintendo, I dare you.
This is you in that video game again, where you're like, oh, I've broken my PlayStation stick. Oh, what am I gonna do?
It's me Xbox stick. It just made it look right. My truck driver looked sad on stream because I'm driving and he's just going. It's just like.
Well, just
couldn't do it. Yeah, he just sounded and looked especially when on the truck simulator he was yawning, so he's just like, and he just looks sad. But so she goes to the shuttle bay, and she's talking to I think she's talking to Geordi.
Yeah.
And next thing we look over to Riker, and a container, an empty container no less, a backbreaker to Worf, is about to crush Riker, and she does. Now I
if only Amanda had been there, Worf. If only.
Yeah, young people. No, I don't do them. I have an issue with the way Amanda controls her powers because it's very Bewitched.
It's very Bewitched / Sabrina, I think.
Or Charmed. It's very Charmed.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
it's very Charmed. She was a Charmed one.
It's also a bit Jedi. Some Jedi they have the whole like, and then sometimes they don't. And it's all just a bit like, okay. Certain people.
First tangent. Star Wars takes place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Do you think the Q are evolved Jedi?
No.
Good. So we see the container.
There we go. I could go into a massive long explanation and justification for that answer, but no.
No. So we see a container about to fall on Riker's head. She does the old charm thing where she's like this, and she deflects the container away. Again, alluding to the fact that, because we don't know she's a Q at this point, but alluding to the fact that Amanda's has got some sort of mystical power.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on. But when we get to the observation lounge, and they're trying to suspect what's going on with Amanda, we then get the reveal, because we hear the familiar flash and it's like, mon capitan.
No, we don't get that. Because we get the box falling on them, and then we have Amanda in engineering, where she's chatting to Geordi and Data, and then while they're chatting, like just in the middle of a sentence, a warp core breach starts, and then all of the sirens start, and then And this is the hilarious thing, because obviously this is one of my like, you know, where it's like, I bet if I watched it now, like how I'm really harsh judging Discovery, I bet if I watched Next Gen for the first time now, I would complain about this and say that's silly and unrealistic. But it's the fact that whenever they're doing, they'll have all these screens in front of them, and yet they'll always read out what's happening. And I'm like, surely the other person can see that on their screen.
Do you
You know,
know
where it's just like,
why?
oh, such and such is at like 4%. And you're like, I'm pretty sure the other person has a bar. Like,
Do you
you've
know
wasted
why?
time saying that.
Do you know why?
Why?
Trek Tech moment of the week.
Trek Tech moment of the week.
Ah,
With
and
Goodwill.
Germany. It's
Trek Tech
because
moment of the entire week.
Deutschland. Right. It's because the starships, starbases, shuttlecraft, and everything like that have got very elaborate black boxes. They're not called black boxes, but it's like flight data recording systems.
Yeah.
So when there's an emergency, everything is recorded, shall we say? And this is why it's obviously in TV production wise, it is exposition for the audience.
Yeah.
So we know, in a shuttle, like rerouting primary thing. So, we know they're doing that. But the explanation in canon is that it's to document what you are doing in the flight navigation systems, the more elaborate navigation flight recording systems, so that in the event of a destruction, an accident, or anything like that, they have elaborate recordings. There was a warp core breach in engineering. What did the chief engineer try to do? Well, we've got a recording of what he tried to do, and and that's why they do it. It's a naval
I
thing as
did
well.
not know that, and I think that's wonderful. That's actually a really, really good justification
It's
for it, even
based,
though it is just
yeah,
exposition for the show.
it's based again because Starfleet in Star Trek is heavily based in naval procedures, protocols, and everything like that. This is exactly what they do in the Navy. So you read an order, they go aye, or they read back the order to you. But then again, we need to release the pressure in this. Releasing pressure on that. It's so everyone knows what they are doing, but also like for bridges and stuff like that, it's the recording system. It's the for planes. It's the same for planes. That's why the black box. If you ever like watch documentaries about flights and stuff like that, the captain and the co-pilot will read out everything, tell exactly what they are going to do, because in the event of an accident, the flight investigation, the accident investigation can go, right, at this point the captain did this because he's read it out and we've looked at the telemetry and this is exactly what he did. This is what they do in Star Trek. So it's a winner because the audience gets exposition. But it also mimics what they would do in the Navy and in the Air Force and everything like that, because Starfleet is essentially the Air Force and the Navy amalgamated into one.
That's actually amazing. Like I've genuinely learned something there. But yeah, so that's what we get in the scene where we basically get, when it's going out, Data's reading out all of the stuff, and they're trying to work out what to do. They're going to eject the warp core, but it's too late. And then Amanda's basically just standing there in front of the warp core, and then it explodes, and she basically turns to it, holds her hands out, and
Like a Power
then
Ranger.
and stops the thing. One of the pictures at the bottom there.
Triceratops!
Yeah, she's like Triceratops.
Oh no, she's the Pink Ranger.
Was she
Who's
like
the Pink Ranger?
pterodactyl?
Right. To Google.
Yeah, no, she was. I'm gay. I know this. Yeah, she was a pterodactyl. Okay. Yeah, and basically like she does that, and then basically Data and Geordie are like hilariously. Data's just gone on this whole thing about like what is possible and like what's unlikely kind of thing, and then it immediately just has to watch as someone like magically contains like a warp core breach and then puts everything back to normal, and it's just Data being like, nothing is logical ever on this ship.
You can see every processor in Data's brain going. But yeah, so yeah, I thought that was later on, but that's obviously my mistake.
No, and then what they do, then they have the meeting, and then they basically have a meeting, and it's quite cool because they don't immediately panic. the next scene we get is basically they're in the, oh, what is it called? The meeting
Observation
room.
lounge.
Observation lounge. Sorry, I've lost all my words today. A meeting in the
Have you had a
observation
Nigel
lounge.
hemorrhage?
A Nigel hemorrhage. Oh, but Britain's
Sorry, go on.
most disliked illness. Um, but the Yeah, and they're basically saying, "Hey, look, we've checked whether Amanda's okay, and she's a bit shaken and stuff, but she's fine. We're gonna get back to her." And then they start discussing the whole like, "Okay, how did she do that?"
Mm.
And we get this amazing little section where Geordie basically says, like, it's like the laws of physics went right out the window. Then we hear a sound, and then we hear a voice saying, "And why shouldn't they? They're so inconvenient." And we see Q sitting there. We see Q sitting there in one of the empty chairs, and we get this lovely shot of Picard's face. Because Picard's reactions to Q existing are some of the greatest things. One of my favorite Patrick Stewart things ever. Basically, he's just literally just like, "Oh God, not again." Like it's like whenever anything with temporal mechanics comes into play with Janeway, is just like how Picard is with Q.
Or like when someone is alive with Janeway. Um, yeah, and like it's like Pike with time travel, as we saw in Strange New Worlds, where he's just like, I hate this.
But
It's
I prefer Janeway's reaction to time travel, just being like, "This is no, this is just nonsense. This is so stupid. Let's not." But
um,
I like that they brought that back for Pike, I think. But
but Q reveals that Amanda's biological parents were actual Qs who took on human form and did the disgusting performance of the sex and conceived a child. And that child is a true Q.
Well, they're not sure because basically Q's been sent to check up on Amanda because they were basically, we don't know, because they were human when they conceived her, will she gain Q powers? So he's basically been watching. And then now that she started exhibiting stuff, what he's done is he's set up scenarios like the box land going on, falling on Riker's head, the puppies appearing, the maybe I think, and then obviously the warp core breach. To go, hey, actually, cool. Can she deal with it? And obviously, they point out like what if she couldn't deal with it? And obviously, Q's like, guess everyone dies.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because, of all people, Crusher asks this. Like, the
Yeah,
chief engineer, the first officer, and the captain are there. And Crusher goes, what if Amanda couldn't contain the breach? And
yeah.
they just gloss over this as smoothly as possible. If I was the captain of the ship, I'd be like, hang on a minute. You were willing to let us all die for a test.
I I think though that this is all kind of what this is season 6, and they're
Yeah.
all pretty sick of Q's bullshit. I think earlier on they would have done that. But
Yeah.
literally, I think the expression that we get from Picard is literally that kind of, God, we're gonna have to go through all of this nonsense again. And I kind of get the idea that they're literally like, we're not going to bother. We know that he would kill us in an instant. We know this. Like everyone is back chatting Q. Like everyone is really kind of cheeky and rude to Q, like Crusher especially during this episode, and they're very disrespectful. But it's because they've kind of realized that there's nothing they can do about him.
Yeah.
Like there's absolutely nothing. So they're just kind of going, well, he could kill me in a second. He could destroy everything in a second. So we might as well just tell him exactly how we feel. And that's what this is basically, where Crusher just starts berating Q for like doing this. And it's brilliant because Q just goes, "Oh, Mon Capitan, I think we should continue this discussion in private," and
Yeah,
teleports
when
him and
Crusher kicks
Picard
off. Yeah.
to his ready room, and then has the line. What is it? What's the line? Crusher gets more shrill with each passing
With
year.
each passing year. Um
Oh,
yeah, I
although actually, I've got a note where basically the reason Q's checking up on Amanda is because he's an expert in humanity, and Riker's just like, "Hang on, what?" Like, and then he's like, "Not a very challenging field of study, I admit." They're just the cute. Like whatever you say, like about John Delancey, he is just
He is
so perfect at
wonderful.
this role. He
Yeah.
is such a unique character and such a wonderful, like sort of lightning in a bottle, like
It
thing for Trek.
is. It is. I think out of all there are some stellar characters in Star Trek, but I think very few fit their roles perfectly.
Mm.
Jeffrey Combs as Young,
Yeah.
J.G. Hertzer as Martok,
Yes. Yes. That's a great one.
John Delancey as Q, because he portrays an overabundance of confidence,
Mm.
ignorance, nonchalance to a degree, but also unbelievable power.
Mm.
Like, he's hilarious, he's funny, but he can also kill you with one click.
Yeah. And
And
would.
would, because, you know, he is a Q and we are nothing. We are mere ants compared to him. And but there's also that underlying, he actually has a soft spot for humans, but most importantly Picard. And we see
Mm.
this in, the second series of Star Trek Picard. um and the fact that right at the end he's back with Jack Crusher and he's like, I thought you were dead. You think in such four-dimensional terms. And it's just, do you know what I mean? It's just like, he's wonderful. And again, it's the call for legacy, because we need John Delancey, because John Delancey brings the comic relief to a certain extent that Star Trek needs sometimes.
But he's definitely a character that I wouldn't like to see overused. Like the
No.
joy is that every series of Trek gets, of a Next Generation gets a Q episode. It
Yeah.
doesn't, he's not in all the time. So if you made him a regular character, it would ruin him. And it's also one of the criticisms we'll get to later is that this episode points out the contradiction, the contradictory nature of the Q, like
Mm-hmm.
how as a plot device it is unwieldy, like the power of the Q. But in this scene we get where Picard and Q are talking. It's quite good. Where Q is basically going, "Hey, you need to introduce me to the girl because she needs to trust me because I need to examine her and then train her in the ways of the Q and how to do her powers." And
Yeah.
Picard basically points out exactly what we were saying earlier of I don't even trust you.
Yeah.
It's just, and it is. It's the fact of they've all just resigned their fate to when Q turns up, anything could happen.
But Picard also wonders, okay, so her parents were Qs and they both died in an accident. How is this possible? These omnipotent beings
Yeah.
dying in an accident. How
So
is
he
this
gets
possible?
data to look into it, and
Yeah.
that's the data role in this episode that I forgot about. But he basically goes, "Hey, you need to look deeper into this and kind of go what happened with her parents." And so that's like a little C plot throughout the episode of basically data going off and researching this, and then
Yeah, yeah. The also, again, we go back to Crusher, and I just feel Crusher should have been in this a lot more than what she was. But we do see a break the
if
news
it
to
if it was a
Amanda.
long episode, if it was a longer episode, you could have done a proper Amanda and Crusher having this kind of relationship and her being like a mother figure and Crusher being more
I
involved. But
I
I
wonder
don't think you could have with the running time.
I wonder though if there were deleted scenes for this.
Hmm.
I can't see any, but it would have been interesting if in the deleted scenes there was more Crusher centric scenes in there with
Yeah.
Crusher and Amanda. But we see that, Crusher breaks the news to Amanda, about what her situation is, and does she want to meet the Q? And the way that Q just comes in and just like examining her like she's a specimen.
No, it's like she's a dog. It's literally like it's so wonderful because what we do is like Crusher basically turns round to go and walk out the room and then tell Q. And Q's like, I know everything that happens in the universe, so I know that she said yes. Walks through the wall, walks up to Amanda, grabs her by the arm, and then like looks her in the eye while holding her arm. And it's like where you get a dog and you check its teeth, where you
Yeah.
sort of like pull the gums away and just be like, hmm. And he's literally just staring. I mean, one of the things I like and dislike about Q is how John Delancey very much has this the recurring characteristic is that he has no concern for personal space.
Yeah.
And the way Delancey plays this is he's always uncomfortably close to everyone. So
Yeah.
whenever he's got a scene with Picard, he will be right, like lips nearly touching his face, like leaning over his shoulder, breathing down his neck.
Yeah.
And this is more of this. Like, we get a lot of scenes with this of Q basically being as close as you can humanly be to Amanda, like when
It's
talking to her.
uncomfortably close to
Yeah.
her ear when he's
And,
talking to her.
it's a great trait. It's a great trait for Q because it basically goes, he does not realize that this is not what's done. Like, it
Yeah.
plays into that. But at the same time, it makes me a bit uncomfortable that there's this young actress and Q is literally like a centimeter from her face, at all times. But
Yeah.
but it's wonderful, like where he is just staring her in the eyes and talking about her like she's not there. Like you talk about a dog, where you just be like, she'll make a good Q, oh, there's a lot of potential in this one. And it's just like she is a person as well.
Yeah, because he just wants to take her to the Q continuum immediately. Like, oh, she's got potential.
Yeah,
I
cool. Oh
suggest,
well, off
yeah,
we go.
yeah,
Like, and just is gonna take her away. And then we get an amazing scene amazing bit, which is basically like he goes, okay, cool, off we go. And then she just says no, and then blasts Q across the room.
which takes it really does shock him
It's a
because
great shot because what we get is we get a stunt double scene, which is very well edited, where
Hmm,
basically Q gets the stunt double gets thrown backwards into a pedestal which has like a vase on it, and the vase shatters and stuff. And then we cut to Q basically just in the corner being like, that
yeah,
okay, that doesn't usually happen. Yeah, and she basically says, no, gan fuck yourself. And then the next scene we
because
get
she's
we
from
get is
Sunderland.
yeah, is actually Q being like a bit shocked. Q
Yeah,
being with Picard, being like sort of going, well, she's a feisty one, isn't she? And it's quite good to actually see him rattled a little bit.
it's good because he then agrees that a less abrasive approach may be worthwhile when it comes to Amanda. But it's also the end of the day, it is Amanda's choice on whether she wants to go with Q or stay with them on the Enterprise.
Which is what Crusher points out. Crusher
Mm.
is the one who points out, like, in the first scene where they teleport away from her, is going, you can't just take her away. She has a right, she gets to choose. And Q's like, no, no, I get to do whatever I want. The Continuum gets to do whatever they want. Like,
Yeah, I did have a
we
question
get
about this, but we'll get to it later. But go on.
okay, we get a very important thing, and I want to ask you whether this is a first for Trek, where
Mm.
basically we have Q walking down the corridor, uh, going to meet with. I've forgotten what happens next, but basically it's Q walking down the corridor, and then we hear a booming voice, asking Q, like, sort of like what's your progress, and we're like, whoa, this is actually the Continuum talking to Q.
Yeah.
And we don't usually get this because usually Q's superiors are unknown,
Mm-hmm.
where we get this idea where we know that he's getting teleported away when he's in trouble or something like that. We know that he talks about these superiors or whatnot, but this is actually them appearing in an episode, and it feels weird, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
honest.
It's a first for Star Trek up until this point because as far as we could as far as we knew, we've only seen Q, as in the Q.
Yeah.
We've never heard of the other Qs. We know that they exist because obviously he's made human in an earlier episode, but we've never heard from the other Qs. And I think the next time we do, it's in Voyager, where they actually travel to the continuum, where they
But
expand
even
it a lot
then,
more.
there's no hint of their superiors. There's
No,
no
no,
sort
no.
of noticeable hierarchy, and it's very strange, the idea of a single voice. I don't know. I don't think I like it. I don't think I like it because it kind of says that the continuum is more linear rather than like what they do with the prophets in DS9, where they kind of go, hey, here's a weird way that they work,
They're a
which kind of
collective
adds to
thought.
their mystique. Whereas with
Yeah.
this, I'm just like, oh, it's just a guy who's Q's boss. Like it feels like that, you know?
It feels like that. There is no hierarchical breakdown of the continuum, but it's almost I understand it as they are all equal. However, when the time comes, the mass, the collective takes action on the few or the singular.
It's kind of a democracy.
Kind
in a
of
weird
in
way.
a pseudo science fiction way.
Yeah.
It is like an evolved democracy where we don't have people thinking that not having sky is poverty. But
the Tories.
it is fuck the Tories.
Actually, I didn't show you. Actually, I got this for my birthday. Look. Yeah, I painted it for me, so it's lemon grab with fuck the Tories. I'm like, it's so good. That was my mate.
But
Mark
this
who
is
did
this
that.
is the first time we hear of other Q apart from obviously Delante's character. But
Is
you
it
know,
really?
any progress update, and you know he's yet to make any decent project. There are problems, and then we reveal that if there is not sufficient progress or Q can't convince her, they are going to have to terminate her. And I'm going to ask this towards the end of the episode because I want to ask how you feel about this Q's role in this. But the fact that we then see Q with Amanda, who is, you know, he's less abrasive, but he is very close to her. He's very uncomfortably close to her.
It makes me uncomfortable in an actor-actress way, but at the same time, I love that this is what Q is like. You know, like this is a wonderful characterization of the character.
But this is what he's like in every episode in Star Trek.
Yeah.
He is uncomfortably close because he knows no boundaries, because Qs do not have boundaries.
Yeah.
They are omnipotent.
It's like the Dr. Manhattan from like you know, from comic books and whatnot, like, you know, where it's the idea of going, when you are that omnipotent, rules don't mean anything. You don't know what personal space is. You don't know what it's, you know, you can't tell the difference between one room and another one because the wall means nothing to you. You know, time means nothing to you. You know, and it kind of gets across that kind of idea, but in a very low budget physical way.
It's very much like it's very much Clinton or Joe Biden if you want to be modern, but we see in this scene where he's trying to develop Amanda's powers, so to speak, and ask, you know, you can have whatever you want, you can go wherever you want, you can have precious jewels, you can walk along the beaches of exotic planets. She said, I don't want that. I don't want any of that. That does not interest me. The one thing that she wants is to see her parents. And the first, you know, and this is where it gets really uncomfortable in terms of like boundaries, in terms of like intimate distances, because he literally gets right up to her like cheek and face, and it's just like, it's if I did a podcast like this.
We can see far too much ginger.
I want to know. And it's just
I can smell your perfume.
You smell differently when you're awake.
You wear Evian skin cream, but not today.
Brute. But we can...
I think you'll find that's pronounced brut. Have you got any of that brut?
No, I'm an old Spice man. But we see him developing her powers, trying to formulate an image of her parents. And again, I don't know about this. I've got questions about the Cosby sweater, but it was the 90s, so I'll let it go. But
I was actually going to bring this up, and these poor actors, like, imagine you just go, hey, you're going to be like, obviously, you know, David would be over the moon with this, but it's the fact of like, where these poor actors and this baby are there for like not even a second. They get 2 short shots. A designer had to put those outfits together, which is why they probably look like Mr. Motivator had a design baby with what is it, Bill Cosby. But it is just like they appear for like a fraction of a second and then they're just gone. And it's like that was your role on Star Trek. Hope you enjoyed it.
Continuum. But yeah, and it's just like this consumes her, bleeding into the next scene where she's with Crusher, trying to do these.
She realizes she can do anything.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's explored in the episode enough. It is in this scene, but I don't think it's explored enough in the episode, which is why I want to talk about it. About the idea of just going, that's something where if you stand back and think about what Amanda is asking Crusher in this next scene, where she basically goes, imagine that you could do absolutely anything, like with no limits whatsoever, what would it be? And Crusher bizarrely is like, oh, I haven't ever considered this. You know, and obviously, and they kind of, you know, she's like, oh, I've never, I guess I would heal some people kind of thing. And it kind of points out like, and then I sort of mocked it and went like, oh, obviously you'd bring your husband back, or you'd make it so like Wesley was, you know, with you, or you knew how science worked maybe. But like, but the sorry, I can't help it. I can't help the side Crusher. Oh,
just
God.
let her pass her GCSEs in science. Go on.
But yeah, maybe make it so the things I said on my CV were actually true. But the idea. Sorry, I'm seeing you laugh and I'm laughing. But yeah, and she can't think about it, and I kind of going like, oh, of course you know you'd immediately know what to wish for, but then when you take a step back, it's actually a very difficult question. And it's good that the scene plays it this way, where it just goes, if someone just surprised you with that and said, hey, you can do anything in the entire world, what would it be? Yeah, I don't know. Like and this is the problem where I'm very much human and small dreams, where I'm too realistic nowadays, where I'm just like, oh, I think I'd like this. And then you just like, no, think bigger. You can do anything. And I'm like, oh, I'd like this thing. Oh, well, money doesn't matter, so you don't need to worry about. I don't know. And it's an interesting one. Like I'm going to ask everyone in the comments, if you're watching this, if you're enjoying it, then please post a comment below. But basically, tell us what you would do, and would it be an easy decision what you did if you just found that you had the powers of the Q? Because I don't think it is.
It's a very difficult question to ask someone. Where it's, hey, if you have omnipotent powers, physics means nothing to you, money is no object, what's the first thing you would do? Because a lot of us are conditioned from a very young age, especially in the North, to dream small. And the first, like, as sad as this is, if you said to me right now, if you had this power, what is the first thing you do? Pay off my
Sky
sofa.
TV.
Pay off my sofa.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you are an omnipotent god with the ability to go anywhere in the universe, and you want to pay off your DFS bill. And it's like,
it's so true. That is the most northern thing in the entire world.
But
like
we
in
are
London, they're like,
conditioned.
oh, I just bought my house outright. You're like, damn, fuck yourself.
Oh, I just sold my house in London and bought 7 in Whitby because fuck the North. But it's
I won't live there, but I'll stop other people having that property. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. Housing crisis. Oopsie. But you know, it's not just like northern people are conditioned to dream small, but look at the answer that Crusher gives, where it is heal people.
Yeah.
Because as much as we debate,
I mean, why break the habit of a lifetime? But still, you know,
exactly,
she's like, finally,
as much as someone fakes their high school diploma, she wants to heal people.
Yeah.
And
she's
again,
like, be as good as Pulaski, maybe. And she's like, not even the power of the Q can do that.
But that is how.
Justice for Pulaski.
But that is how she is conditioned, and anyone in Star Trek that I severely doubt. I won't say New Trek because obviously the characters are written different. But in this era, a lot of them are.
No one in New Trek would be allowed to have superpowers except for one character, and we know that.
She already does. But a review coming soon of season 5, maybe. But the
I mean, soon is a very broad term, and I enjoy.
That's why
that.
I was rushed to hospital. I was thinking of season 5, and I just had to have a bleed. The crew are conditioned to think of others and not be selfish, and not I want infinite this, I want infinite. I want to bring back my mother, my wife, my husband. They are like, I want to heal people. I want to better the Federation. I want to heal these planets and save these civilizations and just live in peace. And that is how they dream. And it's it is very small dreams, and it's good to see that in the 24th century, that people, when they think about it, they don't have these huge grandiose dreams. I want to rule a planet, I want to rule a galaxy, and they're just like, no, I want to heal people. I want to do this. I want to make someone's life better as a result of that.
I'd argue that it's not like a context thing. It's just in general. Like that's why I'm saying that basically, like, if you ask it to you or me in our time, you wouldn't be able to answer it. Whereas, and it's nice that it's the same in like Star Trek.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, because they are like, what is it? What is it? It's effectively communism, but it's the idea, because that is like, I don't want for anything.
Yeah.
I just basically I get given everything and I can just do whatever. But either way, she asks that, and and basically Crusher says like, oh, I've never been in that situation, and Amanda's like, well, I am. Like, that is exactly what I need to deal with. I need to deal with the fact that I've just been told that I can achieve absolutely anything, and I don't quite know how to deal with that. And I think it's a heavy moment of the episode that doesn't feel heavy when you watch it. But I think we just had a big discussion about it. So yeah, that's my point. But yeah.
It's sort of...
I love that Crusher doesn't just go, oh yeah, I'd like my husband back. But then it kind of hints at the idea. To me, the fact that she doesn't immediately think about a husband is the idea of going, hey, I've dealt with that trauma. My life now is based upon that not being a thing and him not being in my life. And also this kind of, but I'm in love with John Luke potentially. It kind of feels like that. It kind of feels like that might complicate my feelings if my husband came back after I've dealt with their passing.
It's the evolution of a character throughout the next generation for her to not immediately go to her husband, because at this point her husband died 11 years ago.
Bloody hell.
So it's been over a decade. She has mourned, she has dealt with it, and she has moved on as a person, both intimately and mentally. She is used, like you said, she has used the trauma of that event to make herself stronger, as we all do. It is the coping with death. It's horrible, but it makes you, to some extent, a better person. It if you're dealing with it the first time, the second time, third time, whatever, it makes you a stronger person, because processing that, dealing with that, and being able to move on is a tremendous growth. And some people can't do it. Some people can never get over it. But the people that can, it is a tremendous growth for it. So for Crusher to, although it was foreshadowed at the earlier part of the episode about, Jack died, blah, 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 the first thing she goes is, I would want to heal people. That is her main focus. That is her drive. As much as we joke, that is her drive in life, is to be a healer, is to fulfill the Hippocratic Oath. And for Amanda, she's at this stage where she's like, I could change the lives of millions, billions of people, or I could be selfish and do what I want for the benefit of me. And she's at that crossroads at this, at this scene where it's, do I be selfish, or and say bring back her parents, or whatever, or do I use my powers for the benefit of all? And I have a question for you regarding this, because I don't think this is ever properly covered with the Q.
Yeah.
Is there a rule within the continuum for someone like this to essentially use their powers to affect civilization?
Well, this is the interesting thing about it, okay? Is like the problem that Amanda faces is the idea of like, it's something that I can kind of relate to in a way, which is the idea of if you have the potential to do something, you feel guilty for not doing it.
Yeah.
Because I have it where I'm just like, hey, because I can do music, because I can do like acting, because I can do sort of like, drag and singing, I should be doing all of those. Why haven't I done this? Why haven't I done this? Why haven't I done that? Like, why aren't I doing a bigger job of this and whatnot? And there's this kind of self-expectation of going, because I can do something, it is my imperative and my sort of responsibility to do something with that gift. Otherwise, it feels like you're squandering it. And what we've got with Amanda is she's very much someone who's like, hey, I'm a quick study. I've learned all this stuff. I don't know what I want to do in the world, but I know that I need to find a purpose, like we get in her first scene. And now she's faced with the idea of going, hey, you have unlimited power. And what does that mean to someone like that? That effectively goes, hey, you now have the power to solve every problem in the entire universe. That is your responsibility. You must now do that. And that must be what's weighing on her, of just going, shit, I now have all of this weight immediately dumped on your shoulder. And you would think that being told you were infinitely powerful was like a way, total freedom. You can do whatever you want. But because of like the character that she is, it's not. It's a massive burden. It's a massive responsibility that she now needs to go, I can heal the sick. How do I go about healing all of the sick and making sure that everyone's fine? How do I go about doing this? But yeah, but to answer your question, we get it's a bit weird because the problem with the Q is that there's never any consequences ever. Like Q gets punished, but it's not for like anything direct. It's not for anything that we'd think. It's for like obscure things that they get, punished for. It's not for like killing off loads of people. It's not for like genocide. They get punished for like just, oh well, you broke this random rule that the Q have or something. But and at the end of the episode, we do see Amanda do something that massively changes the civilization, like horrendously so, as in the shockwaves from what she does as a casual act with her power is like, okay, that probably needs a follow-up episode. We'll get to that later on, I'm sure. But it is just like going, whoa, you can just change civilization. And I assume that she just never gets punished for it. I mean, we never see Amanda again, but I think with the Q, they just like they are. They act as though they're the guardians of the galaxy, that they're the people who look after everything, but they're not. They are effectively just this chaotic force that only doesn't destroy the universe through complacency, really, through hubris.
That was a fantastic Synoiz segment.
Sorry, so
It was fantastic. You quoted, well, loosely quoted the President of the Federation from Star Trek 6. Just because we can do a thing, just because we can do a thing does not necessarily mean we must do that thing. It was almost it was almost Dostoevsky-esque.
Try saying that 10 times fast. Anyway,
not with my head, but it's it's that, how do the Q police the Q if you've got, if you have rogue elements doing this sort of thing? Like, do you have people who play with civilizations or mess with them or destroy them or birth them or change them and stuff? It's worthy of analysis. But what I also want to know is, are there other omnipotent beings other than the Q? Or is it only the Q?
I mean,
It's an interesting theory.
We have the prophets, okay, who seem to have godlike powers, but very limited godlike powers,
Yeah.
where they are limited by their lack of perception, by the fact that they are so omnipotent that they don't care about stuff. And the Q seem to be like that, where the Q would be more dangerous if they actually gave a shit. And it's only a few of them that are just like, oh well, I'll mess around with some stuff, or I'll, like we see with Q in DS9, where he goes off on a weird crazy adventure with archaeology girl. Forgotten her name. Yeah, I love.
Here's
the
another
character.
question. Here's another question. Would you suspect, and I'm not linking these directly, but would you suspect that they are an evolved race, very much like the progenitors, the people who created sentient life in the galaxy? Because they, are they an evolved version of them, or were the Q always omnipotent? Did they transcend their mortal form and ascend into this omnipotent existence? Because
the way that you phrase the question, I feel I'm going to disagree with you in the capacity of, I kind of prefer the idea that the Q just existed as omnipotent beings, because
yeah,
their nature is that they don't really know what's going on, but they think they are. It's almost a bit like Dante's Inferno, or like no, the Milton's Paradise Lost is a better example, where it basically just goes, who is God? God is just the angel that woke up and went, oh, what's all this? Where did I come from? Oh, well, I guess it must have been me
yeah,
then. I must have been the one to do it, and no one can disprove me on that one. Like, because you get the feeling that the Q have spent millennia learning about the universe. They might have guided the universe in certain ways, but they don't feel like they've lived it. They don't
yeah,
feel like they've ever actually come from anywhere. And obviously, we can say, oh, maybe they actually evolved and they've totally forgotten where they came from and they've forgotten what it was like to be mortal. But I kind of like the idea that the universe, they're just like anything. They're like a particle that springs into life from nothing. They're like dark matter. They're like sort of, primordial soup. They're just something that appeared in the universe randomly and, is stumbling around trying to find its place, but it's asserted its place based upon its strength.
um,
I don't know. How do you feel? How do you.
I feel the Q continuum is something that they did not evolve the way we would suspect a species to evolve. That they were not like us and they did not transcend into an omnipotent being, that they are a completely different form of life in itself, and that naivety that they have about mortality, corporeal beings and stuff, very much like the founders with solids. They have a distinct lack of understanding on a solid's existence, how they can retain shape, and very much the Q continuum find mortal beings fascinating because they have a finite amount of time to live, where they've been around for millions of years, and yet this person can have an entire life in the blink of their eye, shall we say. So I don't think they evolved from life as we know it. I do think that they are some sort of omnipotent force that has been around since the Big Bang or before the Big Bang, and they have very little understanding of humanity and stuff like that, because it is so trivial to them that they don't concern themselves with it. Very much like when we see in Star Trek First Contact, you know, oh, the Vulcans were doing a survey. They have no interest in Earth. You are too primitive. It's very much like that. It's very much how, so, you know, like an evolved species can look at a less evolved, you know, very much like humans looks at a lesser species on Earth, an animal.
Yeah, like ants or Tories.
Yeah. And they look at the Tories and they go, oh, I don't want to bother with them. They're too primitive.
Maybe I'll put the rock back on it.
He doesn't have sky. And then they just ignore it and they don't move. You know, they focus on other higher planes of existence and higher, you know, issues. What I see here, though...
But hold on. This is what makes the Q different, though, where everything about them suggests that, but then we do find them taking an interest in stuff. And I'm wondering if that's because of boredom, like it's because they've basically just gone, hey, cool, let's do this. Or if they kind of feel a bit like gods in the capacity of, you know, how like Roman, this is a massive tangent. This is probably our biggest tangent ever, talking about the Q continuum. But the idea of like, you know, how, you know, Greek gods and Roman gods were and stuff, where they're like, this is the god of waterfalls. He only focuses on waterfalls or whatever. And it kind of feels a bit like that. Like they've just appeared throughout history and they've just gone, I am hyperfixating on this one thing. Like I'm just going to do this particular thing. And yeah, they're like mischievous sprites where the only reason why they don't do bigger things is because they just can't be bothered or there's no reason to.
Are you saying that this is the Q continuum is a metaphor or not a metaphor, I'm trying to think of the word, but essentially they are a race of Lokis?
Yeah, I would very much say that's how they're all like tricksters where it's I think this is a failing of Trek where it's basically we never actually get to see a well-meaning Q. And so we do not see it in their nature. We don't actually, if we just had one episode, okay, where we had a Q who was like a Guinan type character, where we had a Q and they bump into them and they suddenly appear on the Enterprise and they're like, hello, I'm currently trying to fix loads of problems and I'm currently trying to sort this planet out or whatever. And we're currently looking into what's happened here. And we don't. So all we ever get is the idea of going, hey, they have unlimited power. They're so above everything that all they're doing is, or it's that to us who don't understand the big plan, who can't see the big picture, all we see is someone messing us around. Like the idea of us trying to get a spider out of the house and the spider's just like, why am I being carried on a bit of card towards the door? You know, kind of thing.
My plans are above your comprehension.
Yeah, and you wonder if maybe that's why the Q seem like trickster gods, and actually it is all for like because the trial of humanity that Q puts Picard and everyone on, maybe that's a massive good thing for humanity. Maybe the actual payoff on a bigger scale is much bigger. Like we know that he helps by introducing everyone to the Borg and basically going, hey, prepare for this one, you know. But it's still the idea of just going, yeah, maybe things seem like tricksters if we don't understand their intentions. But yeah, we need to get back to the episode.
That was a very good tangent, but it does lead into the next scene where obviously Amanda's in the lab trying to sort out this vaccine. And you know, the most important vaccine to save Targa 4, and Crusher goes, right, the intern can do this, I'm off for a cuppa. And then we see Q coming, and I mean, this for me, it's a very predictable scene. It's a type of scene that has been repeated in so many shows over the decades where, hey, you have to do this and you have to do it properly and you have to pay attention, and then someone comes in and goes, let's go play hide and seek, let's have some fun.
Do it in a quick way and fob it off, and you're just like, you know that you shouldn't do this, you know? And everyone always falls for it.
And they literally just play hide and seek on the Enterprise or outside of the Enterprise or on the Enterprise. There we go. Q is a bin. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's the shittest version of prop hunt I have ever seen in my life. There we go. Q is on the pylon of the Enterprise. And it's just, you know what's going to happen. We can see that Amanda is having fun being a Q. But then when they go back to the lab, and then, Crush is just like, well, no, Riker comes in first, and we see Amanda's
you're
eyes
mixing up
light
two
up.
scenes, but effectively,
No, sorry. Yeah,
the
go
order of it doesn't matter. Yeah, because basically we get her teleporting around and learning how to teleport and whatnot, and like using her senses of the universe to know how everything is in order to know where Q is. So she teleports around the ship, finding him in various places, like he's inside a barrel, trigger warning for Worf. And then I've forgotten the next bit. Oh no, he's hiding in the reactor and he's basically
Yeah.
going, hey, stop thinking about just on the ship, as in the decks. So she
Yeah.
teleports outside and finds him like actually standing on the ship. And she realizes, wow, I don't need to breathe. I can exist in the void of space, which is like obviously a big realization for her. And then Q points out the fact of going, hey, you don't need to actually eat. Like you don't need to do any of these human functions. You've just been doing them because they're what you know. And
Yeah, because also interspersed with this, we find out that her parents, her original biological Q parents,
this is the C plot with Data,
the
I guess.
C plot, yeah, Data finds out that the parents were killed by a tornado in Kansas, which Picard immediately gets suspicious about because there is a weather control net all over Earth. And he goes, why didn't this pick up that there was going to be a tornado, and why was it not dissipated?
Yeah.
Again, adding to further suspicions that
Well,
this
also
might not have been an accident.
Picard points out the idea of going, how the hell can Qs die?
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
he's like,
in an
if they're
accident.
taken on human form, does that mean that they can be killed? Or is that, like he doesn't know the rules. But it's this idea of him just going, there's something very suspect about the whole thing. And like, and he gets Data to look into it. And basically Data just goes, yes, the whole thing is sus as fuck. Not in so many words. But Data comes back and says, yes, okay, so what happened was a tornado appeared directly above their house and destroyed their house. And all the witnesses said, yep, it just appeared, killed everything in the house, and then vanished again. It was an entirely localized thing. And obviously they're like, oh, that. And then Picard brings it up with Q of going, this feels like an execution. That the Q stepped in and basically killed Amanda's parents for giving birth to a human child or misusing their powers effectively. And Q points out, what if it was? Like, he doesn't deny it. He basically admits it effectively, saying, yeah, okay, well, we can do anything. And points out the idea of, like, the whole thing about the Q is that their rules can't be understood by us. Where they will literally, genocide would mean nothing to them. But if you break these rules that they have of you can't use your powers like this, you can't use your powers like that, it is literally punishable by, either being made human or being killed.
So this is when they go back to the lab and Riker comes in to the lab. Q is there, and we see Amanda's face light up when when he sees her, and he's like, "You like him? How can you like someone with that much hair on its face?" Blah blah blah. And then Crusher walks in and goes, "Oh, you've done the tests already? Oh well, used our powers." And she's like, this explains the results because I wanted to see a real time maturation of this to see if it was effective. And Q then starts arguing with Crusher, and it extremely pissed me off where Crusher is having this valid argument with Q and the shouting, and then Q just turns her into a dog. And it's degrading the Crusher character so much, and there is so much potential in this episode for Crusher to be that strong mentor, parent, leader, and it is squandered and given to Jean-Luc in certain respects. But it's so like basically The argument, if you look at the episode holistically, the argument to become a Q is far stronger than being a human, because the human side is so fucking weak in this episode. It's almost a one-sided debate.
I would actually go the opposite. I would actually say the opposite from this, because what this does, I actually like Crusher being turned into a dog, okay? Because it points out the fact of going, her arguments are perfectly valid. Her arguments, what she's saying is perfectly valid. And then Q is like, hey, I kind of don't give a shit. I'm gonna turn you into a dog as a joke thing, but also pointing out how little respect he has for her, how little respect he has for the way things work, and how ignorant he is of humanity, and how sort of weak the Q are effectively of going, you have all this power and you don't understand anything. Of him just going, well, why can't I do this thing? Oh, I don't understand what you mean about bloody, it's about all of this shit. And so he like belittles her, but effectively Q is the one who walks away knowing less from this. Q is the one who, and if this, I mean, I don't know, okay, I would describe the Q, okay, as upper management. They are the upper management of the universe. In that capacity, you know how we get middle management, where they're like busybodies and there's stuff where they're going, hey, I kind of just want to do stuff, so I seem busy. So,
Salary leeches.
yeah, doing all that. Whereas upper management are the people who will just make sweeping decisions about stuff without understanding the minutiae whatsoever. And they will cause irreparable damage to stuff because they don't know why things are done a certain way. Like, I remember my brother. Is this oversharing? My brother got made redundant from a job, and it was by the upper management saying, "Hey, we can like sort of save loads of salaries and stuff by just getting rid of all these people." So they fired this team and they fired like my brother and stuff, gave him a great redundancy package. But they didn't look into it. They didn't ask anyone about it. They just went, "Hey, from what I can see on paper, we will save this much money if we get rid of this person." The reality was it cost them hundreds of thousands because they basically went, oh, on paper, this guy's role is this. But actually, he does all of this other stuff that isn't listed anywhere in the system. He has rapports with all these different departments. So loads of stuff gets done because he knows that person and he knows that person, and they will do it faster for him, and they will do all these things. All these little intricate like connections that you get through something that they didn't know about. And then they ended up going, oh, and they had to hire, I think, 5 people to do his job. And therefore they ended up being like, oh, and they came back to him and said, hey, here's lots of money. Please come back and do what you did. And obviously he was like, no, I'll take my redundancy package. Thank you. I've got a higher paying job somewhere else. But and that's what the Q are. They are people where they have all the power. They can make the big sweeping decisions. They can go and go, hey, we're not gonna tell anyone. We're just gonna like oh, what's it called? Commission China, like a company in China to do this bit of the system. And then it'll all take months to do, cost thousands, and then it won't work when we actually get it delivered because we didn't actually engage with any of the tech people because we didn't want them to know that we were trying to do cheaper stuff at China. That whole thing you get in companies, that's the Q. And this is a perfect representation by Q turning her into a dog just to not listen to the reason that she's speaking is a great representation of that and the failings of the Q and the fact of they have all this responsibility of what they should do with their powers and none of this common sense to actually do any of it. So you either get Amanda, where you become this bag of nerves of now I need to fix everything, and that's way too much responsibility for a 16-year-old. I don't know. And then Q, who's like, I just do whatever I want. I don't give a shit, but I'm amazing. And, you either have a choice between anxiety or hubris.
You have changed my opinion of that scene, though.
But it's a shame that Crusher doesn't get more agency in the episode and it doesn't do more with it. But I don't think you walk away with it thinking that Crusher's wrong.
No.
you know, you walk away from it being Q's a dickhead. You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah. Because the whole dinner scene in 10 Forward with Amanda, again, this shows that yes, she can do anything,
hmm.
but it's not necessarily the right
It's hollow.
thing to do or
The
hollow.
journey is the important bit.
Yeah.
That is the whole point. The journey of finding someone to love you and building that kind of thing is the important bit, not the flicking a switch and having
Well, yeah,
someone that
because
loves you.
she takes Riker to. Riker walks in and he's got a date with someone, and she just transports him to a meadow, the
Like a
gazebo.
weird, like Southern America, like, you know,
It's
deep South
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
and
fantasy.
she essentially makes him fall in love with her. And I love you more than anything in the world. And then
Well,
she
he
gets
he basically resists her and he says, "Hey, this isn't real. You
yeah
know, I'm not going to fall in love with you and stuff." And she's like, "Oh, but I can make you," and then makes him, and he immediately turns into a fawning sort of thing, and he's like trying to kiss her neck and whatnot. And then she's just like, "Oh, actually, yes, this is hollow."
yeah the it's the realization that although she can do these things, it doesn't necessarily mean that she should, or it's rewarding in any way, because like you said, it's the journey. Like, you may like someone, but
It's
then
been a long road. Sorry.
but fair for the heart, but it's the journey to get there. It's having those feelings and
Hmm.
making it genuine, that is the most rewarding part. And we see that, with great powers, sometimes it's not necessarily rewarding to have what you want, because
Hmm.
you've not earned it, and you've not experienced the joy, the trials and tribulations of getting to that point. She's
And that's
essentially
the
skipped
humanity.
it. Yeah,
And she has worked her entire life becoming this like grade A student, getting this scholarship, all internship, all by herself, and just being like, you know, being amazing and working really hard. And she knows that reward. She knows how important that is and how
mm,
the journey is the bit that feels good, not the actual reward. And now she's just gone, that means nothing. I can do anything instantaneously. And she's
yeah,
kind of realized that being a Q is actually a bit shit. It's you know, it must be like, because obviously rich people, you know, insanely rich people have massive responsibility, like have not responsibility, massive worries of their own, because all worries are based upon the context of your life. So rich people's problems are going to be very different from ours, but it doesn't invalidate them. It just goes, hey, cool, I don't need to worry about not being able to pay the electric bill. And I think the idea is she kind of realizes, whoa, everything is different. And that's the scary thing here.
the the question I was going to ask you earlier in the episode, is about Q's mission,
Mm,
which is to ascertain should Amanda be taken to the continuum or terminated.
yeah.
What I want to ask you is, how do you think Q himself feels about this mission? As in, he's got orders: either
Mm,
bring her back, if she doesn't want to come back, terminate her.
mm,
How do you think he feels about? I know he puts on a facade because it's Q. Q always
mm.
puts on a facade because his intentions are always beyond our understanding. Blah 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 blah. How do you think he feels when Picard asks, like, "Have you made your decision?" and there's a pause, and he smiles
Mm.
and he goes, "I haven't decided yet." How do you think he actually feels? Because we know, no matter how minuscule it is,
Mm.
there is a good part to Q. And we see this in Tapestry with Picard, and we see it in
Yeah.
season 2 of Star Trek Picard. There is this good side to Q.
I think this is Q's arc effectively of the idea of going from not caring about anything and having all the power of the entire universe to realizing that the small things matter, like his relationship with Picard, which is effectively like a child with a puppy, where they're looking down at something and they're like, "Oh, it does funny stuff if I do this," or "Oh, if I
Yeah.
treat it nicely, it'll do things that amuse me," kind of thing. And this is kind of his relationship with humanity, where and I wouldn't call it like a good aspect to him. I think it's just he's like oh, I can get an element of reward from these gracious acts or these kind of interactions with humanity. And it's kind of like that. It's like in enjoying a pet or enjoying like I don't know, a Tamagotchi or something. Dating myself there. But and I don't know, because the way Q feels, he is incredibly selfish. That's the whole thing. And I have a feeling that Q would just not be bothered. If he had to terminate her, he would just go, "Oh, well, move on," kind of thing, because nothing means anything to him. If he could kill her and then be like, "Okay, cool. Well, I've made myself forget about her now, so I don't need to feel guilty anymore." Like, it's weird in that capacity. And I get the idea that he's curious about her. So the reason why he enjoys the mission is basically he's come here. He likes that she's feisty. He likes that he's got to do, like this thing, and he's curious, but that will fade. The whole thing, like the only time when we don't see his curiosity fade is when he's resisted. But you see, you kind of get the idea that if she resisted, it would be fine. But if he goes like, "Oh well, I just need to, kill her," I don't think he'd regret it. Because like we see with him, oh, what is her name? The archaeologist girl. We did the whole episode with them. Oh God, San? No,
Hang
that's
on.
Spirited Away.
Hang on. Oh.
I don't know, but yeah, but basically, the whole thing where he kept being obsessed with her because she resisted, because she didn't give in.
Petra. No.
No.
Vash.
Bash.
Vash.
Vash. There we go. Yeah. Sorry, how we are terrible Trek fans and we forget these things. But she has
930
only been in 2
episodes, guys. 930 episodes. Come on.
But yeah, no, and I kind of think that Q is feeling curious. I think he's feeling a bit bored. I think he's feeling a bit like he just wants to get on with things. But I genuinely don't think he would feel anything ending her.
Interesting.
And it's very just me being very nasty about Q, but it's the fact of the only true rapport we get from him is with Picard. He could kill Riker in a second. He could kill Troy in a second. He could get rid of all of Starfleet. He would keep Picard in a jar because they're the ones with the relationship, not necessarily him and humanity.
The eventual revelation.
If you disagree in the comments, please post a comment, because I want to be proven wrong about all my things, because it's a great discussion.
The eventual revelation to Amanda about Q's real purpose there. Again, I have questions, because obviously they reveal that Q's purpose is to take her back to the Continuum or terminate her. And then she finds out that her parents were terminated.
Were executed, yeah.
By the Q.
Although, hilariously, you know what I thought? Because I'd forgotten what the plot of the episode is. In my head, I wrote a different story, which is far dumber than what this actually is. But it's basically when it said, "Hang on, it's a tornado in Kansas." Is this a Wizard of Oz reference? Like... Yeah. I was just like going, maybe she was a baby Q and they were reading the Wizard of Oz to her, and then she imagined the tornado and accidentally killed her parents. And then the whole thing is Q is basically going, "Look, you've already killed 2 people because your powers can't be under control," kind of thing. You need to either be fully Q and fully trained up about stuff or not. Like, or we have to terminate you because you could be a risk to the galaxy. And I kind of felt in my head, I was like, oh, I'm sure that's what the plot's going to be. And then it's like, no, actually, it's just a weird coincidence that they lived in Kansas and the house
It,
got destroyed by a tornado.
it's a struggle for me because she's told that her parents were executed by the Q,
Hmm.
and very little is explored with her reaction towards that. There is
Hmm.
very little anger. There is very little
Yeah.
outburst.
Do you want to join these people who effectively executed your
Yeah,
parents?
exactly. And there's nothing. And my question is, do you feel that there should have been some sort of outburst from Amanda, like an overabundance of power expelled from her, where she does something to the Enterprise or Q or the planet or
Hmm.
something like that, to show that there is there is, not to paraphrase Star Wars, but there is a dark side to having these powers, because it's something. If you have just seen your parents for the first time in your life,
Hmm.
and you
And they
miss
dressed like
them,
Bill Cosby.
and they're dressed like Bill Cosby, and then they go, oh, the people that want to take you away and foster your powers, they are the ones that executed your parents.
Hmm.
I think a stronger reaction would have been warranted than what we saw on screen.
I I I definitely agree. I I definitely think it would have been a great scene if she finds out and then she goes on like a sort of Kez style rampage of
Yeah,
like actually, and there's some kind of battle with Q where it's
yeah,
basically her actually humbling him, like her actually just going, no, actually we'll do this. But there's not enough time in the episode. In a
yeah,
movie, you could do that. The budget, like, would be impossible to do it. And also, it would explain too much of the queue. It would, if we actually had a battle between the queues in this kind of angry capacity rather than the sort of tete-a-tete like we get in
yeah,
Voyager, it would probably it would be too tough. Like I think it would what it would do is it would go, hey, this is how queues fight. This is how it works. And that what and yeah, defining the queue too much raises too many questions with Trek. So it
mm,
basically I think the writers went, yeah, we could do that, but then all of this other stuff would need to happen. And I think I'd love
yeah.
it. I love it as an idea, but I think you wouldn't be able to do it in a single episode. Maybe as a two-parter, but yeah.
What about the final scene when they get to Targa 4, and there
Well,
was,
what we have is basically Q says that there are two options for Amanda.
yeah,
There's if she doesn't want to join the queue, then if she doesn't want to join the queue, then she dies. If she does join the queue, she needs to give up all of her humanity and learn how to use her powers. But there's another option, which is that she can remain human, not join the queue, but then she's not allowed to use her powers at all. And she's like, okay, I will choose that option. That's what I've been doing my whole life. And Q points out it's not that easy. That's why we killed your parents, because effectively they retained the power of the Q and they misused it while trying to, while not being part of the continuum and expect and uh, this is hinted at, but basically sort of taking on the responsibilities of the Q, like not doing the job of the
it's
Q but having the power of it.
it's like a bastardization of the Prime Directive for the Q Continuum, where they're
Hmm.
like, okay, you can be this alien race, but you cannot use the omnipotent powers that you have to affect change, to
Yeah.
manipulate things, so
It's
essentially,
like the bloody what's it the Romulan thing where they can't have cloaking devices. The what's that called?
oh, the
The
the, the Kittimer Accord.
Khitomer. Is that the Khitomer Accords? I thought it
No,
was
no,
signed
no,
with the
no. The
Romulans, not
treaty,
with
the
the Klingons.
Treaty of Algeron. Sorry, the
There we go.
Treaty of Algeron. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like that where you just go, this is just a rule that we have that you can't do that.
Yeah.
And but she insists that actually she can happily do it. And then in the next scene, we go, hey, here's the planet. This is the planet they've been helping with all these medical supplies and whatnot. And then as they're standing there on the bridge, a reactor breakdown. It's not a reactor melt. It's a
It's like a
meltdown,
yeah, yeah. It's a reactor
effectively.
breach or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically goes, hey, everyone is going to be killed. There's no way we can teleport people out because of the ionized atmosphere. So there's nothing we can do. And then Geordie and Riker and all of the colonists on the planet are all going to die. And then, yeah, and I think it's a wonderful bit because like Q just, like Picard goes, Q, this is another test of yours. And Q's like, no, nope, I didn't do this. This is totally natural.
Hmm.
Q vanishes, and then suddenly all of the problems just vanish. All of the problems, the reactor goes back to normal, everything's fine. And then, and basically Picard turns to Amanda, and then Amanda turns back to him, and a single tear runs down her cheek. And I think it's beautiful because she's just, and you could have a whole scene like we're doing here talking about what this means, but it's all there in what we see. It's the
There are no
idea
words
of,
that are needed.
yeah, no words needed. It's a wonderful scene where she's just realizing exactly what Q meant of, yes, if I have this power, I have to use it. So I can't be a human and have this power effectively.
It's
And it's this, and the single tear is the sadness of her realizing that all of her dreams can't be achieved anymore. They are gone. That life is gone. All of the what she enjoys, what being human is gone to her. She has to be a Q.
yeah.
And it's wonderful. It's just a wonderful, wonderful shot. And then basically it's great because and then we see, I think it happens before, but we basically see the planet. And we didn't go into this at all talking about it, but we see the planet, all of the horrible atmosphere that's destroying the planet kind of thing. It just goes away. And then the whole planet transforms into a beautiful Earth type thing with sort of green forests and, blue waters and whatnot. And I think it's basically her just going, well, I broke the rules. I might as well fully break them. And then she basically goes, I'm going to heal this planet.
Mm.
Uh, and effectively, it's like a parting gift. And like we were saying earlier, what do the Q, like,
What is
would
the
they,
consequences?
the
Yeah.
consequences? And I kind of think with this one, they're pretty much just going, oh, it's a freebie, whatever, like,
Everybody gets one.
yeah, that's it. It's a kind of, oh well, she kind of realized what she did. Like there wouldn't be consequences. But hilariously though, this also explains the whole problem with the queue, the whole upper management metaphor that I was making earlier. Of what I immediately thought about is now she's just destroyed the entire economy of that entire race. Because on that planet, a planet that works on pollution, works on capitalism, works on sort of like this, they've destroyed their atmosphere by stuff. All of their industry is going to be dedicated to companies and workers who try to depopulate the atmosphere, where all of their technology is going to be geared, like we heard in a scene earlier with Geordie and the guy about and Amanda of basically going, hey, they have all these methods and stuff. So now in one move, she's immediately gone, hey, all of you businesses are out of work. All of you workers now don't get that to do. And we never think about these kind of consequences. We
Mm-hmm.
just go, yay, she healed the planet. They'll all be happy. And they'll literally be like, house prices mean nothing now because money is worthless.
But this
And
is
this is the whole you work on a big picture thinking what you do is good, but you don't understand the minutiae,
yeah.
and you might have just damaged things immeasurably.
But this is the question. Like, does stuff like this warrant a second contact? And it's like yes, because as Synoiz has said, it is the consequences of these actions that are never followed up. Because if you've got an entire planet that is dedicated to essentially re-terraforming the planet, clearing the pollutants and everything like that, and restoring the ecosystem, they've dedicated their lives, their resources, their economy, if there is one, to this, and it is wiped out in 10 seconds. What does that planet do? Where does the civilization go? Because these are not members of the Federation. They are like a protectorate. What do they
Yeah.
do? And it potentially leads to more problems than they originally had, but it leads to more work. You could say, well, the Federation would then step in and then they would do this and they would help that. And it's like, yes, but that again is a huge resource commitment for the Federation
Yeah.
because everything has been sorted and now they have to essentially reverse engineer decades, if you will, of ecological repairs, and stuff that they've had on the surface, and then an entire civilization goes,
Wait,
what do we do now?
it's kind of like AI, where you're just going like, we have loads of people nowadays who are like, hey, I've worked my entire life to be an artist. I've worked
Yeah.
my entire life to be to draw and be an artist. And then now we literally have it where you can type a prompt into the computer and it goes, here's the perfect image that you want. Like,
Yeah.
yes, it's kind of shitty at the minute and it does dodgy stuff, but it will get there. 5 years' time, you will be able to just tell it and it will make something that you would never ever guess was AI
This is what they
and
were
just do that.
saying.
And it just goes like, hey, all of your stuff is worthless. And because of how capitalism works, no company is going to go, hey, the robot could do it for free. And obviously, governments aren't going to regulate me because governments are shit, all about money. Or I could pay someone a load of money that also has to, pay for their rent, their mortgage, their bills. They're always going to do this. So effectively, you just go, hey, cool, this is effectively like what AI is doing to artists and writers and whatnot on a planet scale with this planet that's obsessed with, cleaning their atmosphere and whatnot.
So to sum up, True Q, I think it's a solid episode. It's Next Generation. It's a solid episode. I think though Crusher needed more time or needed more involvement, and we understand this is the 1990s. They have a very strict runtime, 45 minutes, network TV. But I like the episode, but I was disappointed at that Crusher could have done more, could have been more prevalent in the episode, and could have been a bigger force for Amanda and Q. And I think obviously Q and Picard have this special relationship, but I think that I just wanted Crusher to be more involved.
I think the problem with this episode is it's not like usual. Crusher has way more involvement in this episode than a character normally would if it's not their episode. Like usually we'd be like, okay, cool, Captain Picard's in loads, or the central character is in loads, and then the secondary characters, like we have with Data, like we have in Riker in this episode, they have bits to do, but they're not like crucial.
Yeah.
In this one, Crusher has loads to do to the point where we question whether it's a Crusher episode, but not enough. It feels like we're edging Crusher a little bit, and I think it's too much. That's why I was saying it would feel a lot better if they'd split the Crusher's role in this between her and Troy, because then it wouldn't feel like we needed more of Crusher. If she'd had like a slighter role in it, or it was split with another character, then but like you say, we have fuck tons of Crusher in this, but no real payoff, no real sort of like, oh, that was her thing. She's just, for some reason, the writers just went, this is the character who's going to do all of the other stuff.
Yeah.
And it feels a shame because I think it would have been a very good Crusher episode if it focused more on her and Amanda's relationship. But I don't know how you would do that in the runtime.
Any further notes that you have for this episode?
I just what I'm gonna say, okay? There's two main points I need to make. One, I fucking love Amanda.
Yeah.
I love this actress. There's something about her where she's so enigmatic. She's so I don't know. I could watch her forever, and she's so beautifully acted. And I don't think I've ever seen her in anything else. And I just think I don't know. I'm kind of upset about the fact of going, did she have a big career?
She is played by Olivia Deabo.
Yeah.
I'm going to see what else she was in, because I thought it was Katherine Heigl at first when we saw it last week, and obviously it was far too early for Katherine Heigl.
Yeah.
She has been... Oh, wow. Okay. She has been in Bo Derek. Wow. Okay. Let's have a look. I love IMDb. Holy shit. She was in Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker, Conan the
Well,
Destroyer,
can't all be wins.
Point of No Return, Bandit, Lost Girl, Unbelievable, Jane the Virgin, The Bay, Star Crew Protocols of whatever that is.
Any I've seen.
The Elder Scrolls Online, Somerset.
Oh wow, okay, that's
Millennial Rules. She's a working
but
actress.
that's
American
good
Dad.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so
she's
she
a
hasn't.
terrific actress in this.
She is absolutely wonderful. Like
Yeah.
I genuinely, my biggest gripe with this episode is that we never see Amanda again. The last scene that she gets is her talking to Crusher, and she's basically going, "Hey, I'd like to see you again." And Crusher's like, "You're a Q. You can happily make that happen." And then
Yeah.
never explored. We never see Amanda again. We never even hear about Amanda. And I think that the idea of a Q that has grown up being human, understands humanity, and is trying to work out how to be a Q and how to sort of find their place in the galaxy, that is possibly one of the most amazing arcs that you could have in anything like that. It's the Kez arc we never got. The whole like, hey, you have loads of power, how do you deal with it? And then even that was never explored. And yeah, and I'm really annoyed about this because I would have loved them to. I know it was season 6, they didn't have much time left, but she is definitely one of the characters that I would have loved to have appeared in Voyager or something.
It's a nice
and then
second
have it in
contact.
Voyager be them being like, we're checking the ship's log. Oh, holy shit! You know, you appear.
Yeah.
You know, like we know you're like Amanda. What's her surname?
Rogers.
Rogers. You're Amanda Rogers. Bloody hell.
Yeah, it warrants a second contact. Anything else?
And the other point I want to mention is this episode points out all of the flaws with the Q. The Q are an insane problem for writers because their powers are unlimited and yet they still have problems, and you just go, I don't get it. Like for instance, it's just going, Q's like, oh, we're not sure whether to terminate her or not. And I'm like, if you control everything, can't you just make her not a threat? Like, couldn't you literally just go, click my fingers, okay, I've made her so that she will never use her powers to do bad things, right? Cool, sorted. You know, it's because the Q are unlimited that they then are like Deus Ex Machina to everything.
I parallel it to Doctor Who, where it's okay.
Okay.
So they
it
are
does a
omnipotent.
better job of it.
Yeah, but hear me out. So it's like they're omnipotent and they have these powers, and yet there are these mysterious restrictions that are not there in some episodes, but are there in other episodes. And the writer's justification is, don't worry about it. That's why I compare it to Doctor Who, because you know the words Doctor Who and continuity do not go on the same. And this is very much like the Q, where it's just like, yes, but in this episode they couldn't do that because of this, and it's don't worry about it. And that's how I feel with the Q, where you look at Voyager, where they explore. I dare say Voyager explores the Q to a greater length than the Next Generation ever did. And see,
I think it does that, but it does it in a sensible way.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't go, oh, we're limiting them or we're doing this or whatever. It basically goes, hey, we're going to explore them in this capacity that doesn't really affect how they behaved before. Whereas TNG, this is the episode, I think, in TNG that gets the closest to going, we're defining them too much to the point where it makes massive plot holes.
Yeah.
Like where we're saying, hey, they have limitations, but why did, like the Doctor Who thing, where you're like, well, if he could do this, why didn't he use it in that episode? And then why has he forgotten he's got this ability like 2 episodes later? You know, oh, like, what is it? Recently, didn't the Doctor bring like a butterfly back to life or something in like the episode with Jinx Monsoon? It's like, he's never done that ever before.
But
that's just the thing he does.
But look at when in Voyager Q has a child. And it's like, oh, the Q continue. They need to reproduce. No one's ever been reproduced for millions of years. And then you're just like, yes, but Amanda Rogers.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So it's sort of like, yes, but this happened, and then the rest, don't worry about it. That's how it feels. Where you've got like, you have this whole arc, this 2-episode thing in Voyager where you've got Baby Q, reproducing Q, and then you've got the adolescent Q, and then they're like, this is the first for the continuum. They're no, we've never reproduced for billions and billions of years, and then it's like literally Amanda Rogers 5 years earlier, and you're like, how can you forget that? But again, it's the writers just going, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And that's how I compare them to Doctor Who, because it's just, yeah.
And that's it. Like, is that how you feel about it though? Like, is that your general consensus with the Q of they're a fun thing to have in Trek, but I'm glad that we don't see the Q too much. What is it? This is a random tangent. I'm sorry, everyone watching, how long this episode is probably going to be, but it's the idea of, I was discussing with my mate Ian the other day about bloody Alien Covenant. Which is a movie that was made, but is absolutely awful, where none of it makes any sense, and I'm shocked that it made it from page to screen.
Yeah.
But it basically has you see the aliens and the monsters in full daylight. You see them outside in the daytime, you see them in fully lit rooms, and they just look shit. They don't look threatening at all. The whole point is that the illusion, the being masked, the alien being like a shadow in the background, or like a thing in a pipe and there's smoke everywhere, that's what makes it scary, that you don't see the full thing. And the Q is basically, they're this mysterious thing that, as long as you don't define them too much, they kind of make sense. As soon as you go, oh, they can do this, but they can't do that, then we go, oh, now you fucked everything, and they become less.
If you see too much of the Q, if there are too many Q episodes, it takes away the mystery, the allure of the Q continuum. Whereas if you look at, we had a significant gap between them appearing in Voyager and then season 2 of Picard. But then even in Picard, they geared it towards it being a Q-centric season, but then it was actually a time travel season where Q was in it maybe a handful of times. And, he was dying and
Which
blah,
is
blah, blah.
The problem with season 2, where it felt very much like they went, here's the plot for the season. Actually, no, it's going to be a time travel thing. You're like, what? No. They set up the whole Guinan and Q thing.
Yeah.
And it felt, and you were like, oh, that's amazing. And they're like, no, it's the past and Borg thing. And you're like,
but it's almost
I didn't
like,
want that.
it is almost like one of the writers said, let's bring back Q. Everyone loves Q. But then a seasoned, I'm telling you now, this was Terry Matalis, right? He came in and they went, Terry, we've got this brilliant idea. We've got Delancey on board. We are going to have the Q back for season 2. We are going to have the Q who are dying. Why are they dying? What's going on? Blah, blah. And Terry Matalis turned around and he said exactly what you've said. If you have too much of the Q, it loses the mystique. It loses the allure. And if you try and flesh them out, they lose that appeal. And I think with season 2 of Picard, that's what happened, where they had this grandiose idea. I mean, he was teased in the teaser trailers and everything like that. And then it was just 10 episodes of time travel, more or less. And then we got him at the end. Maybe in a couple of episodes here and there, and then we got him at the end. Because I lay you a bet Terry Matalis said the exact same thing that we have been discussing. And then we had jack shit of the Q until a post-credit scene where it was just the trial never ended. That's all you need. That is all you ever need of a Q. I would be happy, right, if Legacy is greenlit or whatever, or in any other bloody Star Trek series, right, where we go 5-6 years and we see Delancey once, maybe twice. Because that... It just has that mystique, right? But also, it doesn't always need to be Delancey. You could have Amanda Rogers come back. You could have any other... You could have Q's son.
Yeah. You could have Q's girlfriend, like Q's son's mother, like I
Yeah.
forgot. Well, she's called Q, obviously, but played by one of my favorite actresses in Trek. Like you know,
Oh, don't
she's
talk to me
so
about
good.
that Klingon nonsense.
But I love her so much, and she's so good. She's one of the savants, the genetically engineered people in
She
DS9, isn't
is.
she?
She
She
is.
is
Yes.
so good in that role. I love her. But
Yeah.
yeah, like a gay icon basically.
Mm.
But the way I would do it if I was writing Trek is I would put a Q in as a regular character, but it would literally be one of the disgraced Qs. It would be an expansion on the what if the Q got punished by having their powers taken away. And it would basically be the arc that we get with mental blank, the Empress from Discovery.
Giorgio.
Yeah, Jojo. It would be that. It would be the idea of having someone on board that would kill you in a second if they had their powers.
Yeah.
And they go from being a villain over the period of stuff to actually being, like a thing. And maybe they have a redemption arc where they actually become a Q again. Maybe they end up sacrificing themselves and in the end realizing what it is to be human and kind of going like, whoa, I rejected being human, but actually in the end I understood it. It might be a bit of a tropey kind of character,
But we've had
but
it with the original Q in Next Gen.
we had it in that
Yeah.
episode, but it's still the idea of if you wanted to bring the Q back and you went, hey, we need the Q involved in something, but we need it over a long plot arc, like we're doing a Discovery series, that's what you would do. Because then you would have a character that could flesh out the Q, could explain stuff about the Q, and have all of that kind of thing. But without the whole game breaking, oh, but there is no threat because they can do anything at any time.
Yeah.
Like that, I would be interested in that kind of plot line, but effectively it would be a rehash of the next gen episode and also a rehash of Emperor
Giorgio. That is possibly our longest review of an episode thus far, and I have enjoyed every single minute of it.
If you have, comment. Yay.
Yay! Click on the like. However, we are receiving an incoming transmission.
Incoming transmission.
Just delete my incognito window. Oh my god, it's the double wheel!
Double wheel of time.
Welcome, everybody, to the double wheel of episodes. Le Croissant. For those who are just tuning in for the first time, trekking up north, hello. This is the double wheel of episodes. Contained within it is every episode of Star Trek in existence, huge asterisks.
As in, I didn't put Discovery or the animated series in.
What is contained in the double wheel is season 6 of the Next Generation.
Series 6 of the Next Generation, or the first, or 3 seasons of the original series.
Yeah.
That's it. And then 4 episodes of Voyage.
And what we do, we spin the double wheel. And at the end of the spin, when it is landed on an episode, we yell at the top of our lungs, Dabo! And everyone in the comments has to comment Dabo. You have to let us know that you are all saying Dabo. You need to time code it when it lands so we know that you have yelled Dabo.
Join our Discord, send us a video of yourself yelling Dabo, everything. Just
join
yell
our
Dabo.
MySpace.
Surprise your pets, surprise your grandma, all of these things.
Send me a carrier pigeon with just a little scroll that says Dabo.
It's just you just getting the pigeon, taking the thing off its leg, opening it, slowly unraveling the bit of paper, and it just says Dabo.
Knit me in a very suggestive cardigan that just has Dabo going across the sleeves. Send me a Just Eat order of Greg's.
I love how this is just what our merch should be. Our merch should just be Dabo related. Like, yeah, we do need t-shirts that just say Dabo.
Dabo.
Anyway.
But what we do before we spin the wheel, we ask for predictions, and as there is no live chat, I am forced to only ask my co-host, Science Officer Synoiz, what would you like for an episode next week?
Oh, I think we know. I think we know what the episode should be. It's Code of Honor. Come on, Dabber Wheel.
No.
You can't keep hiding it from me.
Yes, I
Code of-
can't.
We saw it a couple of weeks ago. We actually saw it flash past, and I was
We
like, yes.
did, and many poos nearly came out.
I actually, I have a lot of terrible jokes to make about the episode that immediately follows True Q that we've had, which is Rascals, where they all turn to children. That could be quite interesting, but no, I feel like I want a Kira Nerys episode from DS9, a Doctor or Seven episode from Voyager, and nothing from TNG. I think we've had quite... I love TNG, but we've had quite enough of it.
I want one of the augment episodes from season 4 of Enterprise.
Oh.
Because we get Brent Spiner as a Soong, and we get the original. We get so many things that like sort of fix canon issues in Star Trek in this little mini arc. And also I love Enterprise, so yeah. But I am going to load up the Dabber Wheel right now, and I am going to spin it in 3, 2, 1. Ready? Anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. Oh. Double!
Oh, it's fucking Next Generation.
Conundrum. Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I love the screenshot.
Season 5. Season 5.
At least we're getting
14.
lower. At least we're slowly going back rather than season 6 and 7.
Oh, that is a screenshot to send to your mother.
It looks like Geordie and Worf are doing the ABBA video. It looks like Take a Chance on Me.
It looks
just
like the
Agnetha
simulation.
in the background.
It looks like the simulation is bugged, and instead of T-posing, they're just in like the standard Avatar stance.
No, it looks like the video games they did. You know, the interactive VHS games. It looks like a scene from one of them. They just green screened Worf and Geordie in. If you're listening on audio Spotify, you're not missing anything.
You're really not. This is a really good episode. After the crew's memories are mysteriously erased, the computer records the computer records indicate that the Federation is at war with the Lycians and that the Enterprise has been ordered to attack their command center. This is a good one. This is a good episode. So I'm quite happy about that. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's TNG again.
Same.
And I think we need to reintroduce the animated series to spice it up. I think.
I wonder. Yeah. I think maybe what I'll do is I'll take TNG out for a bit, like we did from the original series. We'll put the animated series in. We'll take TNG out, and then we'll see what we can get for a couple of weeks. Because we need more Voyager. We need more Enterprise. We need more. We need some animated series. Really.
Computer, take us to the 2-person screen. Beautiful.
The fact that you can hear your mouse click when you do that ruins the illusion, and I absolutely love
it. We will also be reviewing when it comes out, because it's coming out in one delicious block of episodes.
Oof.
We need to review season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy, because we can never have enough Janeway in our lives. And season 2 of Prodigy has that, and unfortunately, Chakotay. But next week, we will be reviewing Conundrum from Star Trek The Next Generation. And next week, I may be wearing a uniform if I feel better, because I could not be chewed today.
Is it a movie next week?
No, it is
because
not.
You know how we went out of order with them because obviously you were ill? Like, is it actually Star Trek 6? No, not next week, the week after.
28th of June is Star Trek 6 The Undiscovered Country.
Right, okay.
So that's the 28th of June. Next week will be recorded because what are you doing next week, Science Officer Synoiz?
Oh, next week we have Slagatha Christie in the Polari Peril, which is my my drag cabaret murder mystery show. It is going to be absolute chaos. Honestly, it is just the amount of bits, like we've got the script and then we just have sections of it where it just says ad lib, which basically is, yeah, so it's just going to be a mess. I'm gonna be perfectly honest, but we only have I think at the time of recording we only had 10 tickets left, which is quite fascinating. I even asked the venue if they can do more tickets and they're like, we cannot. We could maybe have some people standing if you want, and I was just like, no, I don't think people can stand for like a 2-hour show.
You heard it here. As of recording, there are only 10 tickets left. Get your tight buns. And get
That's it. Go to thevelvetsnatch.com/Polari, Polari. And yeah, there's tickets. I think the thing is, what we're going for is we kind of realized that we were going, hey, should we be really serious with this? Should we be really sort of like, and then we realized that our favorite things in shows are where there's just chaos. Like when we saw a show the other week and it basically just had loads of unintentional mistakes where like they basically announced the performance, said, oh, next on the stage, blah, 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 blah. And then the music started playing. And then you just heard this voice yelling from behind the audience in the back room, wrong track. and they're like, oh, okay. And then this sort of like, and they went, okay, changed it, and announced them again, started playing track. It's like, still wrong track. And then they came on. And it was one of these things, and it was just so funny. And the audience loved it so much. And we were just like, we need to kind of have that energy of basically going, hey, we have this plot, we have all the stuff we're going to do. But at the same time, there's enough chaotic energy in there I think it should be a lot of fun. But it's the first show that I've ever organized entirely myself, so scary times, and I'm trying not to have an anxious breakdown about it. But yeah,
thevelvetsnatch.com/Polari. Get your tickets whilst they are still there. If you liked, sorry, go on.
And we also have another thing to announce, don't we, Goodwill, which has just been finalized this week, which is the Nerdy Up North quiz, which is wonderful.
Nerdy Up North?
Yeah. Nerdy Up North quiz, which is the 29th of June, which is the day of Sunderland Pride. So it's Saturday, the 29th of June. It's going to be 5 p.m. until 8 p.m.
Ooh.
And it is £2 entry, and we're going to have various rounds of quizzes. There's going to be a picture round. There's going to be a very special round. And it's about all things nerdy. So it's in Sunderland. So the URL I've got is thevelvetsnatch.com/nerdy quiz. But that might not go anywhere yet. But yeah, and basically, yeah, so come along. There's going to be a prize for the winner, an exclusive prize for the winner, a winning team, and there's going to be a raffle, and it's going to be great. And you can hang out with us nerdy lot, the ones that can come along. I will be there as the Velvet Snatch, and hopefully we will have other members of the Nerdy Up North team there to say hi to you. But yes, there we go.
I will be there, even if it is my bloated corpse. I will be there at Weekend at
One of the
Bernie
questions,
style.
what's this?
You will see me with sunglasses and be like, that's Captain Goodwill, and you'll see Paul and Synoiz just doing this, making me wave.
What, like Weekend at Bernie's?
Yeah, like Weekend at Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's, yeah.
Weekend at Synoiz's. But we've got the Nerdy Up North quiz. We've got Slagatha Christie. We also have Destination Trekkin Blackpool on the 28th of July.
Oh, that, yeah.
That. And then we are also at STLV in Las Vegas.
Vegas.
Vegas. On the 1st to the 4th of August. So come and say hello, because you will see us as well as all of our friends from Trek Culture, from Clone Star, from many, many others. Captain's Quadrant's going to be there as well. Many, many others. You may get a t-shirt. That's all I'm going to say. Also, I am joining Paul on BBC Radio Newcastle and Radio Tees on the 22nd of July. So if you are not in the area, if you're not in the area, log on to bbc.co.uk and try and find Radio Newcastle if you can. We will be live in the studio on July the 22nd, talking about trekking up north, nerdy up north, and all things geeky and promoting Blackpool. However, if you liked this episode of Trekking Up North, click that like button that is right there, right under Synoiz's chin.
Oh,
right there.
Oh, there
yes.
it is.
Yes, it looks like a penis, but it's got a thumb. Click that like button.
Looks like my penis, but I can see it.
If you are not a member, a subscriber of Nerdy Up North, please click that subscribe button, tickle that bell, and let us know what you thought of this episode of Trekking Up North and what you thought of True Q if you did watch it as well. Did you like it? Did you hate it? We want to know your opinion. We want to know your comments. We have got so much amazing content on the Nerdy Up North YouTube channel. We have got something for everyone. If you love monsters, we've got Monsters Up North. We've got Gigs Up North. We've got Gaming Up North Ramblecast. We've got the main Nerdy Up North podcast that just talks about everything.
The worst thing is it's Legend. It's the Ridley Scott movie Legend with Tim Curry and Tom Cruise this weekend. So I will be on Sunday.
We
which
have got
is
so much.
A great one.
We have got so much coming up, and we can't wait to show it all to you. We also have a Twitch channel. We also have a Discord. We have a TikTok, an Instagram, a massive, huge, throbbing Facebook community, a massive, huge, slightly less throbbing Facebook page. We have
all of this is linked in the description below.
It is, and we've got all of our friends of Trekking Up North down there. Please click the links. Please subscribe. We have got the Shuttlepod Show. We've got JL Saw You, a friend of the show. We've got Captain's Quadrant. We have got the Clone Star Podcast, and we have got Trek Culture. All friends of the show, all as deranged as we are. So please follow them as you follow us, because I want to go through death and life with you. I want to review all the episodes of Star Trek and the movies in existence with you. So please join us on this journey, because it's been a long road and it's not fucking ending. But until then, I have been Captain Goodwill. This handsome Geesian, has been Science Officer Synoiz. And until next week on Trekking Up North, stay safe, live long and prosper. And as always, as we end the show,
Miles?
Miles.
Miles?
Miles.
Miles.